guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I want to recommend some dupe palettes for the Natashadenona Glam palette. Now that palette is very popular and I know some of you guys like myself cannot afford this palette, and I was just going through my stash just to see if I have dupe palettes that I could make this video for you guys, and I had a few of those palettes that look close to her Glam palette. I heard a lot of good things about that Glam palette. I wanted to get the palette, but I stopped myself because of the price. I don't have any of her palettes, so I can't really tell you guys if it's good or not, but just by looking at some of the reviews on YouTube, a lot of people like it. They just complain about the price point, which I think is crazy because her stuff is expensive. I want to recommend some palettes for you guys because when I look at the palette, it looks similar to some of the things that I've seen before, high-end and drugstore as well. Now the Natashadenona palette is around $65. You could get it on her website or you could get it on Sephora website. And actually, when I look at the shades, it just reminds me of the Naked palette. I went and picked up my Naked palette and I compare it, and some of the shades do look the same. Okay, now some of the palettes that I'm gonna recommend, I don't have them, but I still gonna recommend them for you guys. And the first palette that I'm gonna recommend as a dupe for the Natashadenona palette is the Naked 2. Now I have the Naked 2 palette and they don't have none of the Naked palettes anymore, but if you have that in your stash, you don't need to pick up this palette. And the Naked 2 palette is around $50. Now I was a big fan of Naked, of Urban Decay back in the day, and my palette is old. She is done with. I have one that is broken on the side here, but I didn't feel like fixing it, so there it is. So this palette is very close to her palette, especially those shades right here. It looks like it, and also this shade right here. I just think that it looks really close to it. I'm not gonna give you guys any swatches because this is a very old palette, and I know some of you guys probably have it in your stash, and I probably only use this palette maybe 3 times in my lifetime. You already have those colors or those shades in your stash, so if you already have this, just use this. It's the same shades. I'm not saying that it looks exactly like Natasha palette, but it's close to it. You could get away using this palette, and I've seen a lot of people comparing this with her palette. And yes, this palette is $50, but like I said, they don't have it anymore. And I'm gonna recommend one that they actually have that you could find if you guys want something close to her shades. So this is one of the shades that I have in my collection that is close to her palette. Now the other one I'm gonna recommend is from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I don't have that palette, but it's a sultry palette. I'm gonna put it right here so you guys can see that. Now the shades in this palette it looks close to her shades, but there's only one shade in the palette that is kind of off. I think it's like a pinky shade. So if you really take that shade off, you get a Natashadenona palette. That's just my preference. Correct me down below if you guys think otherwise, but I think that this palette is very close to her palette, and I think this palette is $45, and I don't think they carry the palette anymore, but if you have it in your collection, you don't need that palette as well. Okay, another palette that I'm gonna recommend for you guys is Milani Soft Glam palette. Now that palette I don't have it, but I look around and that palette is very close to it, and they do have that palette in their collection, and also it's on sale for $10.99. So if you guys on a budget like myself and you wanna create a look with the Natashadenona palette and you don't want to spend that $65, $11 is good. So the Soft and Sultry palette is $10.99. The original price is $20. They have a sale now on their website. That palette is very close to it. I'm gonna put a picture right up here so you guys can see the shades, and also I'm gonna put the Natasha one on the side so you guys could see the comparison. There's another one that you guys don't have to break the bank to buy her palette. The other one I'm gonna recommend, and I use it today and I in love with this. I actually have it here, and it's one of the e.l.f. classic palette. Now that palette is not new, it's new to me. I honestly love e.l.f. products, and if you guys been following me for a while, you guys know the deal. Like I am a big fan of e.l.f. Okay, so when I seen this palette, I had to get it because myself wanted to buy this palette, and I actually stopped myself because I didn't want to spend the $65. I bought it and I canceled the order. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do myself that, because if I have one of the dupe palettes, I really don't need that. The only reason why I wanted to get the palette too is to do a comparison for you guys, but it's not gonna happen. I just can't do it. This is a palette here, and this is the classic palette. I went on the e.l.f. website and I didn't see it, but you could get this on the Ulta website if you really want this palette. Now, girl, I used it. I like it. There's a little bit of fallout, a little bit of kickbacks, but that's okay because this palette is $15. It's very close to it. There are 18 shades in this palette, and there are around maybe six matte shades. And I do like this palette. I just used it in another video and I love it. It's just beautiful and it's soft. There's a little fallout with the shimmer shades as well, but this is a really good dupe for it. And I did went to the Sephora store looking for the Natasha palette to take an actual live picture so you guys could see it, but they didn't have it and I was not going to go to another store. I'm not going to give you guys any swatches of those palettes because I don't have the Natasha palette to even do like a comparison for you guys. And there's a lot of palettes that is coming out, and girl, my hands is itching me to get it, but I've been doing good. The palettes that I share with you guys today are cheaper than the Natasha palette. Spend your money wisely, and if you guys already have it in your collection, don't be spending $65 plus tax, because girl, that's a lot of money. The cheapest palette that I've shown you guys is from Milani, and if I didn't have any of these palettes, I definitely would have picked up the Milani palette. I don't have none of the Milani palettes, but if you guys already have these palettes in your collection, you don't need to pick up the Natasha palette. And let me know in the comments below if you guys want to see more videos like this, what you guys think about this recommendation. If you guys have any more palettes that you think that is close to Natasha palette, leave them in the comments below. Thank you guys so much. See you guys in my next video. Bye.